Well, I developed TrikeBuggy, first of all, in the paragliding version, so I could fly my paraglider when it's calm, when I can go to motor meets and I don't have to run with this motor on my back. So you take a regular paramotor and you just attach it to the back. So the TrikeBuggy is designed so that you can put anybody's paramotor onto it. And you just pop it on with a couple of comfort bar adapters here and you put it on and it's ready to go. You just put your regular paraglider on there, use the same glider that you would use if you were free flying in this, or if you're foot launch powered paragliding. Either way, you can use the same glider, which is real nice. It gives you the option of being able to fly a glider in many different configurations. I've kind of always had the dream to fly, but I didn't really like the idea of being inside a cockpit with a steering wheel all kind of away from the air. Initially, I learned how to paraglide, which is the soft wing, no motor. You go to the top of a hill, you inflate the paraglider, you run along with it, you can turn right, you can turn left, and then when the hill falls away faster than our glide, we glide away from it and we fly out. And so I learned how to paraglide first. I probably have done that for about 10 years before I started powered paragliding, which is just putting a motor on my back and bringing the glider up and running and going flying. I really enjoy the free flight as well, which is taking off on a hill and you look for a parcel of rising air and you catch that rising air and you circle just like you see birds circling and going up. You can do that in an unpowered craft and climb up and get this free altitude. It's kind of a little more of an art form than just, using the throttle. But right now, I couldn't free fly because this is flat. There's no thermals. There's no way to get a mountain here. So here, it's really fun to just sit down in the craft, to use the same wing. It pulls it up. I make sure it's balanced, and I take off. I have the same set of controls: turn left, turn right, and so this just gives me more ways to fly my paraglider, really is all it is. I had learned how to paraglide for about 10 years and I wanted to learn how to fly a hang glider. So I went and took hang glider lessons and I started flying these and started flying in the local mountains, again off a hill where you run down a hill and you just glide away, no power, and you catch the thermal and go up. Once I started powered paragliding, I wanted to be able to adapt the Trike so I could use it with my hang glider as well. And it's just a natural extension. This is actually quite a bit easier because you just walk around, sit down, and you can just take right off. I can shut the motor off and use the glider. It's a very lightweight glider, so I can actually climb in a thermal. It's a soaring Trike essentially. It's made very light so that I can get up and catch those thermals and do the same thing as if I'm flying without a motor. Once I shut the motor off, and even if I have a motor out, these are gliders, so even if I have that, I'll just glide down and land gently on the ground. A motor out is a non-issue for either the paraglider or the hang glider with these aircraft. They're very, very safe as long as you keep yourself within glide of a landable area. If you fly over the water where you can't get back to land if the motor goes out, or if you fly over a forest or up in the mountains where you can't glide back to a reasonable landing area, then you're really setting yourself up for trouble. So one of the reasons I developed this, using this particular Trike, is a lot of guys have a Trike and they're sitting in a harness that's attached to this, and they're sitting about like this. This is where I would normally sit in a powered paraglider. I would have these comfort bars, they would come up under my arms like this, and I'd be sitting like this. But if I fly a Trike like this and I get going and it starts getting unstable, I go over and my head is going to hit the ground. So a lot of Trikes are like that. They get going, it gets a little unstable, and it goes out, and they go over right on their hands, their face. The good thing is we're not moving that fast. But by lowering this center of gravity clear down literally to this high, you can see I'm completely protected by this cage. I have a very strong seat here, and I'm inside of here. If I need to, I can push out on these like this, just so that I hold myself back in the seat if I ever was to tip over. This is a slider axle. This is an axle that you can push it in when you're transporting it, you pin it in, and when you're ready to fly, you pull it out, so you get a really nice wide axle when you're flying, but you can push it in for transport. For training, I've got an axle that's 4 feet on each side, so it's way out here, so literally the Trike can't flip over. It's really wide. When I train people, I like to put them on a wide one, and then once they're better, I just put them on the shorter axle. So I just take these axles out, put the 4-foot axle in, and it's way out here. It makes it much more stable for a new student to learn on. Okay, this is just a narrower tire. It's about 3 inches wide. We have a wider 6-inch tire that doesn't have all these treads. Personally, I like a tire without treads. So, you know, rocks get picked up by this and they get thrown off. I don't like a tread. I like the other tire, which just has simple lines like this. It's more of an aircraft tire. It is wider, but both of these will roll over sand just fine. And I think these have a little more aerodynamic quality to them, the narrower tires. But it's really your preference. There's no real great benefit to having a wide or a narrow tire. Both of these work great in sand and everything. This design here is a low hang point system that I actually pioneered. And most trikes have their hang point up here on the top of the trike rather than down here. So I use this riser guide, put the riser through this and attach it to the carabiner right here. And now the wing is attached to this. And this is unique to this trike. It's a low hang point system that I developed. This here is an A assist, and what this does is there's A risers, there's B risers, and C risers attached to the wing. If I pull the A forward, that tends to accelerate the glider. So when the glider's back, this will accelerate it. Once it comes up, it stops accelerating it. So this assists the glider to come up without having to push the glider up to help it up. It's an assistant that it accelerates the glider when it's back, but as soon as it comes up, it goes to neutral. There's not even tension on it, and it stops pulling on the glider. So it makes it so if you have bad shoulders, you don't have to push the glider up into the air when you're starting out. If you don't push it up evenly, then you accelerate one side and the glider shoots off to the other side. So it's really critical if the glider gets up evenly. These both pull exactly the same every time. They always pull the glider evenly, and then they release. They just go to neutral when they come overhead. The more it's back, the more it accelerates it. The more it comes overhead, the less effect is on it. So it's really unique. When you're foot launching, you're standing here and your arms can literally go back into the propeller. So this netting is meant to keep our hands from going back in. When we're using the trike, as long as we don't reach through and we respect where the prop is, I often take the netting off when I'm doing it on the trike because my arms, I literally just can't get around there, and I know that the prop is there. I don't stick my arms back. Well, this is a 313 motor. This was designed off of the Hearth, but it's not a Hearth anymore. It's a compact radial design. 313 cc's, probably about 28 to 32 horsepower. Redrive here, which reduces the spinning of the motor down to the prop here. And this is a pretty large prop here for ultralights. Most times we use about a 48-inch prop. This is about a 58-inch prop. A little larger for a little more power for a bigger guy, and for just using lower RPMs with the motor, not so much noise. You can see how he's taken out a lot of you can see the drills in here where he's taken out a lot of the weight of the frameworks to make it light, to make it easy to put on your back as a backpack unit, but also strong enough to take off a trike. This front plate here I designed so that you wouldn't have to drill any holes in the FlexiFoil kite buggy. Just take this and slip it over, put these 2 bolts in, it locks it in place on the buggy, and then you can attach 2 bars that come down to that without having to have any permanent attachment on the buggy. I designed this, it's made by a laser cut process, it's real nice and strong, and it's proprietary. This is all AN hardware. This is the other thing, it's just a mirror that I put right here behind this. And from my vantage point there, I can see the entire wing in this little mirror here. And so I can balance the wing by not trying to do this, but just looking down at the mirror, and I can see it. I can make it go to the right or the left. I can balance it by looking there and then up at the runway. Look down at the mirror and up at the runway, rather than trying to, do this kind of thing. It's too hard. It's got Velcro so that I can also take it off and I can check the gas. Oh, how much gas do I have? Okay, put it back on. So very easy to transport, very light. You can just carry these around, just move them around, unlike the more heavy aircraft where you have to basically start them to even move them. That's circle kiting, where we circle kite all the way around in a circling configuration. It's a ground practice for the art of kiting and control of the canopy. This is really hard to do, actually. Don't go too fast. He went too fast. He did it too fast. What he did was, The glider, you need to keep it on the inside. He got on the inside and that put the glider to the outside and that stalled it. But if he would have kept the glider on the inside, he can always follow it around. He just let the glider, he got under the middle of it and then it got to the outside and he kept going and that pushed it out. So keeping the glider balanced all the time. If the glider moves to the left, we move to the left. If the glider moves to the right, we follow it. And that's what keeps it in balance. If I insist on going this way, the glider just falls over and goes like that out of balance. So a lot of it is very specific pilot skills to make this thing work, to make the paraglider version work. It's much different. This here, with the hang glider, it's just sitting there. You don't have to balance it at all. You just go and it just takes right off. It's real easy. I wanted the TrikeBuggy also to be able to move from one configuration to the other. So we just take this bullet frame off and we put on this A-frame here and the front strut, compression strut, and now we can just put the paramotor, take the cage off because we don't have the lines hanging back and it's not going to hit this. And now we can go fly it in the hang glider configuration, in the Trike configuration, which is really a lot of fun. So it takes me about 20 minutes to go from paraglider configuration over to the Trike setup. Yeah, this is, front plate is the same as the Para one, it's just made a little differently for the Delta. It's a little bit thinner, but it's the same thing. It just clamps on here without having to drill anything in the stainless steel. So it goes on, one bolt on the bottom, and I can literally take that right off. So we got this A-frame here. You can pull this away and you can see how this is just a single bolt, ties these two together as if they're one piece of metal, and they come all the way down. This attaches to the front axle, this attaches to the back axle. All right, so to break this down, pull this off, take one bolt out here, loosen these bolts, and this whole thing comes down, and you take the compression strap off. You can set this glider up with one person quite easily, and it doesn't require a lot of people's help. And put this stuff back on. Little Velcro holds that on, gives me a back support at the seat. Such a simple design, and yet very strong and very useful. I'll quite often fly this Trike without this front strap, this front compression strut, because this A-frame is holding this and leveraging that Trike. It's holding it up like that, so it won't fall out. It actually gives it a little more of a softer feel because it can flex a little bit. This stiffens it up quite a bit. On a bumpy field, I really feel it. When this is off, I can go on a bumpy field and I can bump the Trike, and the hang glider stays a little more rigid. Very strong design. I've flown it many, many hours without this strut, but I like the strut. It gives it added safety, added security, and especially for a heavier guy, if you were real heavy up here, I don't think these have ever even shown any signs of stress or problem, but you know, it just gives it a better thing to have this front compression strut on for sure. Well, one of the reasons I wanted to bring this machine to market is because so many people have paramotors. They already have a little backpack unit that they fly with their paraglider. And I wanted something that you could just take that motor, pop it on the frame, tighten it down. And on this one here, because I don't have these strings, the prop is nowhere near the guy wires, I can take the cage off. You notice the cage where we put our hand through is not on this. So I can simplify it. I get much better airflow with this if I take that off. And now we can use this same backpack unit that I would put on my back and just clamp it on here. This is a smaller 202cc motor, not quite as big as the other one, but very powerful still, and plenty of thrust for this little microlight aircraft. We have a scimitar prop here, which has kind of a forward curve to it and gives it a quieter and more powerful thrust band. Also, you have a tuned pipe here, which gives it a little more power and just makes for a really nice, package for power. This is my wind indicator. It tells me which way is the wind blowing. You can see how it's facing forward. It's always good to take off right into the wind, so when I look at the feather, I can see I'm going the right way. It's just for fun. Well, the wings that I use for this microlight aircraft, these are tandem hang gliders, and they're double sleeved. You can see here how the double sleeve, this goes all the way through there, so it's made to hold the weight of not just me, one person hanging underneath it, but another person, two people. I don't use this with single place hang gliders, the smaller hang gliders. You can't just use any hang glider, so I really recommend using a double place, which is made to withstand the pressure of holding more weight. It's a stronger glider. It's also larger, so with all that extra weight, it's going to behave just the way the glider is certified. It has a weight range that it's certified for. And if you use a smaller glider that's certified for your only body, then you're overloading it and you're making it go way faster, and it could develop characteristics in flight that are challenging to deal with. So it's really good to fly a certified glider, especially if you're just starting out, a glider that's not a real challenge, not a high performance glider, but a real easy flying glider. So a lot of guys ask me, oh, I have this old hang glider in the garage, can I just put it on here? I say, maybe later, but you wouldn't want to start out with that. It's going to go too fast, and it may not be made for a trike. Chances are it's not made for a trike, so you're going to be putting too much stress here, and it may be quite dangerous, actually. You can get into the basic TrikeBuggy, even the or the deluxe TrikeBuggy with the bullet for about $1,700, and this one here, the trike part without the motor and without the glider, for about $1,900. So if you already have a paramotor, you don't need to buy a second motor and put it on there. So the price is very attractive. I'm working on right now a package where you don't have to put a paramotor on, but I have a specific just motor attachment that'll put a motor on, gas tanks, and the whole trike will be available with a hang glider for under $10,000. The second thing that makes it attractive is you can throw these, literally you can take this and put it in the back of your pickup truck and just pull it out, go flying. It takes about 5 minutes to set up the glider, take this out of the truck and set it down on the ground and go fly. All you got to do is get in touch with us, and we'll show you, usually in 3 or 4 days, all the basics of flying. And we'll stay with you longer if you want to become certified. There is a certification process you can go through, but there's no actual requirements for certification. So a lot of guys just want to train for a few days, go home with the tools and practice and get better, or come back whenever we get together here. They come out here and fly with us. But all you got to do is just look us up on the internet and come out, and we get people that come to our area in California from all areas of the nation. We teach usually at El Mirage Dry Lake, which is just a wide, flat, open lake, dry lake that we teach on. No obstructions at all. It's wide open, flat, and it's really a wonderful place to teach and to learn. A book can't give you the hands-on experience that an instructor is going to see. If they see you doing something that's a dangerous thing, maybe bringing your brakes down too much or doing something, we can say on the radio, we can say, hey, don't do that, that's dangerous. We're going to alert you to the things you need to know. It's very easy to learn how to fly. It's not easy to teach yourself how to fly. You'll probably break a lot of things, props, cages, body parts. We don't want to do that. So if you want to learn how, look up a good instructor and take the time to go out and get a little bit of instruction. It's not difficult to learn, but if you don't take the time to get good instruction, you'll probably have a hard time and have a lot of broken stuff in the process. Quite often I'm asked, which one should I do? Should I do the Delta, the TrikeBuggy Delta, or should I do the paraglider version, the soft wing version? And I really don't have a great answer unless you're really drawn to one or the other. Certainly the Delta takes a little more setup. You have to have a car that will transport a long tube, so a truck or a trailer, where you can transport the glider itself, because that is long and it's, probably 70, 80 pounds. So that takes a little bit of transport challenge right there. It takes about 15 minutes more to set up the hang glider. It's really fun to fly, but the paraglider version is very fun to fly too. You just have a small backpack-sized bag that you put the glider in, and you just lay it out behind, and you can go fly on that. The paragliders have the advantage of just being able to go into your trunk, and this can go in the back, in the back of a truck. Actually, if you take this apart, this will actually fit. I can fit my TrikeBuggy inside my, I have a little Honda or Toyota Echo. And this whole thing, if I break it apart into pieces, it'll go in there. It'll take me a little longer to set it up. The beauty of putting this on a little trailer or in the back of a truck is you just roll it out, set up the wing, and you can go flying. It's about 5 minutes from arrival to actually takeoff. I totally enjoy both. And the paraglider's a little slower. We're probably flying at 20 to 25. in the paraglider, whereas in the Delta version, you're flying at about 30, maybe 35. Depends on the wing. This is a bigger tandem wing. It's a little larger, about 225 square feet. So it's going to fly a little slower. You can put a much smaller wing, a much faster wing, once you become skilled. But initially, you want to fly a bigger, easy, slow wing that is easy to fly. Some people ask me, why do I like ultralights and that particular segment of flying? And I think it's one of the easiest ways to approach flying in the first place. You can sit right down and start learning. The first day, usually you're in the air, actually flying soloing by yourself, which is kind of amazing. Once you've left the bumpiness of the field and you're in the air, it's just smooth, and it feels like you're kind of on, almost like floating. There's just nothing like it. And the view from this seat, when you're in the air, it's incredible. It's hard to describe, it's hard to put it into words. The feeling of being disconnected from the earth, of getting your feet off the ground and feeling that flying from an aircraft that's inherently stable. If you do nothing, it tends to roll out and fly itself. So you add a little power, you go up, you let a little power off, you come down, you pull to the right, you turn right. It's so simple. If you're done turning right, you just virtually let go or just let it come back, float back to center. And the craft, both the hang glider and the paraglider, literally fly themselves. They're inherently stable. We're largely unregulated. You don't have to have a pilot's license. It is a good idea to get some training so that you do it safely and you understand what we are regulated by, the few rules that we do have. If we violate them, we're going to lose our freedom, lose our privileges. But flying ultralights, it's only single place, so we can't do tandem, we can't take anybody up with us, but we don't need to go through the whole sport pilot or pilot license program. That's a huge hurdle that a lot of people just don't want to do, and this is really simple to go out and learn how to fly an ultralight like this and be able to do it legally. You'll be able to go out and just enjoy the sport of flying and getting into the air for recreational purposes. And that's really what these are designed for. Single place, I want to go fly and have fun, or meet up with 30 of my best friends and go fly around. I don't really view any aircraft as safe. It's as safe as you make it. It's really how you, as a pilot, are committed to being safe in your practices, and that's getting good instruction, practicing safe flying habits, and making sure your equipment is running good, that you're pre-flighting and everything is in good running order. That's really critical as a pilot. As long as those things are good, man, we just go up and enjoy ourselves. It's so much fun to fly. So people ask me a lot about the maintenance of these motors. These are powered paragliders, and really when you buy one of these, you become your own mechanic, because you can't just take it down to the lawnmower store, down to the auto parts store and get regular parts for them. They're paramotors, and they require kind of you to become involved in taking care of the aircraft. And I don't know that there's really a rebuild schedule for these. You just have to really look at it all the time, listen to it, do your pre-flight, look at the springs, look at all the things that are on it, and you really are responsible for your own aircraft with these. You've got to keep them running, and they're kind of, in a way, they're prone to failing, and that's why you always want to give yourself room to glide into a landing, because the motor will just stop running for whatever reason. We found some of these motors, just a little electrical connector will vibrate off and the motor dies. And so we glide down, we land, we reconnect it, and maybe crimp it so it stays on. Well, now we've learned if we put a little silicone on there, before it comes off, it doesn't vibrate as much and loosen up. It holds it and it doesn't fall off. So you learn little tricks like that that will keep your motor running good. Around the springs, I tend to put silicone all around the springs, completely goop it up so that that spring doesn't vibrate. It's sitting there inside that, and it really prolongs the life of the spring. So little things like that, we become our own best mechanic for these things. You can get help. There's people that know about the rebuild of these and how to do all that. But really, you've got to just make a commitment to be your own mechanic for these little aircraft. Some people think that just because we don't have a license, we don't have to be regulated by a licensing process, that it's unsafe. And really, it is down to the pilot. If the pilot just goes out and buys this equipment on eBay and goes out and tries to teach himself how to fly, he's probably going to be unsafe. But if you take the time to find a good instructor, a good school that's reputable, they're going to give you the tools you need to, you might have a very abbreviated actual instruction period, but we're going to give you tools during that period to go back and to use and to practice, and then you can get good at launching and landing and paying attention to the things you need to fly safely. It doesn't take a lot of training, but there are specific principles that we have to adhere to. If we don't, we're just going to get in trouble. Just like any aircraft. If you bought a Cessna and went and tried to teach yourself how to fly, you'd probably end up in the same mess. So take the time to get some good instruction, find a school or an instructor that you feel is reputable, and take the time to get those tools, and then make it your goal to really practice those things. Bring it home, make it yours, make it something that you own, these skills that it takes to launch and land and fly these aircraft. It's not hard, it's not difficult. There are specifics, and if you get it, you can have a lifetime of fun flying without being dangerous. So we pretty much looked at both the paragliding version, the hang gliding version of the TrikeBuggy, and it's just so nice to be able to set this thing up, come around here, give this thing a pull, start it up, sit down on the trike, fasten your seat belt, grab the throttle and just go. This just allows us to go experience the air, to do what we do, to fly, recreational flying.